The deep space monitoring station on Luna hummed with quiet activity. Dr. Sarah Chen sat at her workstation, watching waves of radio signals flow across her screens. For 20 years, she had listened to the empty darkness between stars, hoping to hear something that would change everything. At 3:47 a.m. Earth Standard Time, she found it. The signal came from the edge of known space, weak and broken. Sarah's computers worked for hours to clean up the transmission. When the translation program finally finished its work, her coffee cup fell from her trembling hands. The message was simple and terrible. "Help us. They are coming. They kill everything." Sarah called her supervisor immediately. Within an hour, the small monitoring station was full of military officers and government officials. The signal played over and over in the main conference room. "This is definitely alien," Dr. Martinez from the Xenobiology Department confirmed. "The language structure is completely different from any Earth language, but the translation is accurate." Admiral Marcus Rodriguez, commander of Earth's Space Fleet, leaned forward in his chair. He was a big man with gray hair and scars from the corporate wars. His eyes stayed fixed on the main screen as the alien message continued. The transmission contained more than just words. There were star charts showing the location of the alien species, technical data about their ships and weapons, and most importantly, detailed information about their enemy. "They call themselves the Valari Coalition," Dr. Chen explained to the room. 7 different species working together. Their home systems are about 40 light-years from here. The star charts showed something that made everyone in the room go quiet. Red markers indicated dead systems. Planets that had been full of life just months ago were now empty rocks floating in space. "The enemy is called the Devourers," Sarah continued. "According to this data, they've been moving through that region of space for the past year. They don't take prisoners. They don't negotiate. They just destroy everything and move on." Admiral Rodriguez studied the technical specifications of Valari ships. The aliens described their most powerful warship as having heavy plasma cannons and strong energy shields. The numbers made him frown. "These weapons wouldn't punch through." "The armor on one of our patrol boats," he said. Quietly, Captain Elena Vasquez, Rodriguez's second-in-command, looked over the data. She had fought in 3 different wars and commanded the newest ship in the human fleet. Her dark eyes widened as she read the alien specifications. "Sir, their heavy plasma cannons put out less energy than our point defense systems. And their strongest shields, a single railgun slug would go right through them." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. The aliens who were calling for help were incredibly advanced in some ways. Their faster-than-light communication was better than anything humans had. Their star charts were more detailed than Earth's best astronomical surveys. But when it came to war, they were like children. Dr. Chen pulled up more of the alien transmission. "There's something else. They know about us." A new section of the message played. The alien voice spoke in broken English, clearly using a basic translation program. "Human warriors of Earth, we have watched your radio signals. We know you fight. We know you are strong. The Devourers come for us now, but they will come for you next. Help us and we help you." Admiral Rodriguez stood up slowly. He had spent his entire career preparing for war with other human nations. The idea of fighting aliens had always seemed like science fiction. But the evidence was right in front of him. "How long do we have?" he asked. Dr. Chen checked the timeline in the alien message. "According to their projections, the Devourers will finish with the outer Valari systems in about 3 months. After that," she paused and looked at the star charts. "After that, they'll be in a position to reach Earth." The military officers in the room began talking quietly among themselves. Rodriguez raised his hand for silence. "What do we know about these Devourers?" Sarah brought up the technical data the aliens had included about their enemy. The information was frightening. Devourer ships were massive, some of them the size of small moons. Their weapons could destroy entire cities in seconds. They had been conquering and destroying civilizations for thousands of years. But Captain Vasquez noticed something in the tactical reports. "Sir, look at this." Every battle follows the same pattern. The Devourers approach slowly, using their size and firepower to overwhelm enemy positions. They don't seem to expect much resistance. "What do you mean?" Vasquez pointed to the battle data. "Their ships move in straight lines. No evasive maneuvers. Their weapons track slowly. It's like they're used to fighting enemies who can't hurt them." Dr. Martinez spoke up from the back of the room. "That makes sense, actually. If you're technologically superior to everyone you meet, you don't need to develop advanced tactics. You just overpower them. Admiral Rodriguez studied the information for a long time. The Devourers had destroyed dozens of civilizations. They had weapons that could crack planets. They seemed unstoppable, but they had never fought humans. Dr. Chen, can we send a message back to the aliens? Yes, sir. Their communication system is compatible with ours. Rodriguez thought carefully about his words. Humanity had spent centuries fighting each other. Every war had taught them new ways to kill and survive. Earth itself was a dangerous world that had made humans tough and aggressive. Other species might see humans as primitive, but that might be exactly what the galaxy needed. Send this message. We received your call for help. Earth fleet is coming. Hold your positions. Dr. Chen's fingers flew over her keyboard. The message shot out into space at faster than light speeds, carrying humanity's first promise to an alien species. As the transmission ended, Admiral Rodriguez turned to address the room. Ladies and gentlemen, everything has changed. We're no longer preparing for war with other humans. We're going to fight for the survival of entire civilizations. Captain Vasquez stepped forward. What are your orders, sir? Full mobilization. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier we have. We're taking the entire fleet to alien space, and we're going to show these Devourers what happens when they threaten Earth's neighbors. The room erupted in activity as officers began making calls and sending orders. Within minutes, alerts were going out to every human military base from Mars to the outer colonies. Dr. Chen watched the chaos with wonder and fear. 3 hours ago, humans had been alone in the universe. Now they were preparing for an interstellar war against an enemy that had conquered half the galaxy. But as she watched Admiral Rodriguez coordinate the mobilization, she felt something she hadn't expected: hope. The aliens had reached out to Earth because they knew humans were fighters. They had seen something in humanity's broadcasts that told them Earth's children might be the answer to an ancient threat. The Deep Space Monitor continued to receive weak transmissions from the Volari Coalition. Each message told of another world falling to the Devourers. Each plea for help became more desperate, but now they wouldn't be fighting alone. The Deathworlder fleet was coming, carrying with it all of humanity's rage at those who would destroy the innocent. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when someone threatened Earth's friends. Outside the Luna station, human warships began changing course toward alien space. The greatest adventure in human history was about to begin. The emergency session of the United Earth Defense Council lasted 18 hours. Politicians from every nation and colony gathered in the orbital meeting station above Earth. They argued, shouted, and demanded answers while Admiral Rodriguez waited patiently to present his military assessment. President Chen of the Pacific Federation slammed her hand on the table. We're talking about sending our entire fleet to fight aliens we've never seen, to help other aliens we know nothing about. And if we don't, Admiral Rodriguez replied calmly, those same enemies will be at Earth's doorstep in 6 months. The Volari data is clear. The Devourers are moving in our direction. General Morrison from the European Alliance looked skeptical. How do we know this isn't some kind of trap? Maybe the aliens are lying to get us to leave Earth undefended. Dr. Sarah Chen, who had been invited as the expert on alien communications, stood up. I've analyzed every part of their transmission. The linguistic patterns, the mathematical constants, the star charts, and everything checks out. These beings are genuinely terrified, and they have good reason to be. She activated the holographic display in the center of the room. It showed the galaxy with red markers indicating systems the Devourers had destroyed. In the past year, they've eliminated 37 civilizations. That's billions of lives. The pattern is clear. They're moving toward this region of space, and Earth is directly in their path. The room fell silent as the representative studied the display. The red markers formed a clear line pointing toward human space. Admiral Rodriguez saw his chance. Ladies and gentlemen, I've spent 40 years preparing for war. I've studied every conflict in human history, and I can tell you with certainty that we have advantages these Devourers have never faced. He brought up the technical comparison between human and alien weapons. The Volari Coalition's most advanced warship carries weapons that wouldn't damage our oldest patrol craft. Their shields couldn't stop a single shot from our railguns, but look at what they consider the enemy's strength. The Devourer specifications appeared on screen. Their ships were massive and heavily armed, but Admiral Rodriguez pointed out key details. These weapons are designed to destroy stationary targets, planets, space stations, slow-moving ships. The Devourers have grown used to enemies who can't fight back effectively. They've never faced an opponent who could hurt them. Captain Elena Vasquez joined the presentation via video link from her ship, the UES Righteous Fury. Behind her, the bridge crew was clearly preparing for departure. Our entire military doctrine is based on fighting opponents with similar technology, she said. We use speed, tactics, and aggression because we had to. Earth's wars taught us that overwhelming firepower isn't enough. You need to outthink and outfight your enemy. The debate continued for hours, but gradually the tide turned. The evidence was overwhelming. Humanity's primitive kinetic weapons, nuclear missiles, and aggressive ship designs were actually far more advanced than galactic standard military technology. Finally, President Chen called for a vote. The decision was close, but it passed. Earth would send its fleet to aid the Volari coalition. Within 6 hours, the largest military mobilization in human history began. At the Mars Naval Shipyard, Captain James Park watched as his ship, the UES Thunderstrike, was loaded with enough ammunition to level a city. Around him, dozens of other warships were being similarly prepared. Sir, his weapons officer reported, we're carrying 3 times our normal missile load. Engineering says the ship can handle it, but we'll be slower than usual. That's fine, Captain Park replied. Where we're going, we'll need every missile we can carry. The human fleet that assembled over the next 48 hours was impressive by any standard. 800 ships ranging from fast destroyers to massive dreadnoughts. But Admiral Rodriguez knew they were carrying more than just weapons. Converted colony ships had been loaded with Marine battalions, soldiers trained for boarding actions and planetary assault. Hospital ships designed to handle massive casualties joined the fleet. Factory ships capable of manufacturing ammunition and spare parts during long campaigns took their positions. Most importantly, the fleet included humanity's newest and most destructive weapons, the AI-guided missile swarms that could track and destroy multiple targets simultaneously, gravitational torpedoes that could tear apart enemy ships at the molecular level, and the experimental Hellfire plasma cannons that had been deemed too dangerous for use against other humans. Captain Vasquez reviewed her ship's specifications one more time. The Righteous Fury was humanity's newest heavy cruiser, designed after studying decades of space combat. Her weapons could fire in all directions. Her engines could accelerate fast enough to crush a normal human. Her armor was designed to survive direct nuclear hits. All ships report ready for departure, her communications officer announced. Admiral Rodriguez's voice came over the fleet communication system from his flagship, the massive dreadnought UES Defiant. Men and women of the Earth fleet, we are about to embark on humanity's greatest mission. We go to fight an enemy that has terrorized the galaxy for millennia. We go to defend species we have never met, on worlds we have never seen. Throughout the fleet, thousands of sailors and Marines listened to their commander's words. The aliens call us Deathworlders because we come from a planet they consider impossibly hostile. They think Earth made us strong, and they're right. But it made us more than strong. It made us protectors of those who cannot protect themselves. The first ships began moving away from Earth orbit, their engines creating brilliant flares of light against the darkness. The Devourers have never faced an enemy like us. They've never fought beings who choose to fight rather than flee. They've never met soldiers who see impossible odds as just another challenge. Captain Park felt his crew's excitement as the Thunderstrike joined the formation. These men and women had trained their entire lives for combat, but they had never imagined they would be defending alien civilizations. Today, we carry with us the hopes of every human who ever looked up at the stars and wondered if we were alone. We carry the determination of every person who ever fought to protect the innocent. We carry the strength that Earth gave us. The massive fleet began its journey toward the edge of human space. Behind them, Earth continued its orbit around the Sun, now defended only by orbital platforms and a small reserve force. To the Devourers, we say this: you have made a terrible mistake. You threatened our friends, you brought war to our neighborhood, and now you face the children of Earth. Captain Vasquez smiled grimly as she watched the fleet's formation through her ship's sensors, 800 warships moving in perfect coordination, carrying enough firepower to sterilize entire star systems. But more than that, they carried humanity's promise to defend those who could not defend themselves. Fleet Command, This is righteous fury. All ships ready for jump to faster than light. Confirmed all ships. Jumping in 3, 2, 1. Execute. The human fleet disappeared in a burst of distorted space-time, racing toward a war that would determine the fate of the galaxy. Behind them, Dr. Sarah Chen continued monitoring alien transmissions from her station on Luna. The messages from the Volari coalition were becoming more desperate each day. But now she could send back words of hope. The Deathworlder fleet was coming. The greatest adventure in human history had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The human fleet arrived at the edge of Volari space to find hell itself unleashed among the stars. Commander Sarah Park, leading the Advanced Reconnaissance Squadron in her destroyer UES Swift Arrow, stared at her tactical display in horror. 3 massive objects, each the size of a small moon, hung in space around the Volari homeworld like predators circling wounded prey. "My God," her tactical officer whispered. "Those are the Devourer ships." The alien vessels were unlike anything in human military databases. Black metal surfaces covered with strange geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly, weapons ports the size of city blocks, and energy signatures that made the Swift Arrow sensors scream warnings about dangerous radiation levels. Below them, the once beautiful Volari homeworld was dying. Orbital habitats that had housed millions were being systematically destroyed. Each time a Devourer weapon fired, another piece of alien civilization vanished in a burst of superheated plasma. The Volari defenders fought with desperate courage. Their ships were elegant crystalline structures that moved like dancers through space, firing precise beams of energy at their giant enemies. But their weapons barely scratched the Devourer hulls, while return fire destroyed Volari ships with casual ease. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the Volari fleet," the communications officer reported. The alien voice that came through the speakers was filled with despair. "Human ships, you came. We did not believe. We thought you would not risk your people for strangers." Commander Park activated her transmitter. "This is Commander Sarah Park of the Earth Fleet Advance Force. We received your message. Help is here." She watched as 12 Volari ships tried to coordinate an attack on the nearest Devourer vessel. Their energy beams focused on a single point on the enemy hull, creating a bright spot of glowing metal. For a moment, it looked like they might accomplish something. Then the Devourer's return fire swept across the attacking formation. 8 Volari ships died in seconds, their crystalline hulls shattered like glass. "Commander," her sensor operator called out, "I'm detecting massive energy buildup in all 3 Devourer ships. They're preparing to fire on the planet itself." Sarah's blood went cold. The energy readings indicated weapons that could crack continents. Billions of Volari civilians lived on the world below. "Get me Admiral Rodriguez." "Immediately," she ordered. The connection took 30 seconds. 30 seconds during which the Devourer weapons continued charging. When the Admiral's face appeared on her screen, Sarah could see the main human fleet in the background, still several minutes away at maximum acceleration. "Admiral, they're going to destroy the planet. We can't wait for the main force." Rodriguez's expression was grim. "How many ships do you have?" 12 destroyers, sir, against 3 Devourer vessels. Any other commander might have ordered the small force to wait for backup, but Admiral Rodriguez had not earned his rank by being cautious. "All ships, emergency acceleration, close to weapons range and engage immediately. Save that planet." Commander Park felt her ship's engines surge to maximum power. The acceleration pressed her crew back into their seats as the Swift Arrow and her sister ships raced toward the 3 massive enemy vessels. "Tactical, what are our chances?" she asked quietly. Her weapons officer, Lieutenant Martinez, studied the enemy ships carefully. "The good news is their weapons track slowly. They're designed for bombardment, not ship-to-ship combat. The bad news is we need to get very close to penetrate their shields." "How close?" "Close enough that their point defense systems can hit us." Sarah nodded. She had expected as much. "All ships, this is Commander Park. We're going to do something the Devourers have never seen before. We're going to fight them like humans." The 12 human destroyers spread out into an attack formation that would have impressed any military academy instructor. Instead of approaching in a straight line like the Volari, they came from multiple angles at different speeds, making themselves difficult targets. The Devourers noticed the approaching ships and began turning their massive weapon batteries toward them. But the human ships were small and fast compared to what the aliens were used to fighting. First target lock, Martinez reported. Range 50,000 kilometers. Too far. Take us closer. The swift arrow dove toward the nearest devourer ship like a hawk attacking an eagle. Around her, the other destroyers followed similar attack patterns. The enemy's massive plasma cannons fired, but the beams moved too slowly to track the fast-moving human ships. Range, 20,000 kilometers. I have a clear shot at their shield generators. Fire everything. The swift arrow's railguns opened fire with a sound like thunder. Solid metal slugs accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed struck the devourer's shields. The barrier that had stopped every Valari weapon flickered and died under the kinetic assault. Around the battlefield, 11 other human destroyers fired simultaneously. Nuclear-tipped missiles streaked through space toward the now unshielded enemy hulls. The Devourer point defense systems designed to stop energy weapons could not intercept the fast-moving projectiles. The first nuclear warhead detonated against the side of a Devourer ship with the force of a small sun. Then another, and another. Within seconds, all three enemy vessels were being battered by nuclear explosions. But the Devourers were not helpless. Their massive hulls absorbed tremendous punishment, and their weapons were finally beginning to track the human ships. "Incoming fire," Martinez shouted. A plasma beam meant to destroy space stations swept past the swift arrow, missing by less than a kilometer. The heat was so intense that the destroyer's hull plating glowed red even at that distance. All ships continue the attack. Don't give them time to aim. The human destroyers pressed their assault with the reckless courage that had carried humanity through countless wars. They flew between the massive Devourer weapons, firing continuously at close range. Captain Vasquez's voice came over the communication system from the approaching main fleet. "All reconnaissance ships, this is Righteous Fury. We are 3 minutes out. Can you hold them?" Commander Park watched as one of her destroyers, the UES Tornado, took a glancing hit from a Devourer beam. The ship's hull cracked, but her crew kept fighting. "We'll hold them, Captain, but we could use some backup." The battle continued with desperate intensity. Human missiles and railgun slugs tore at the Devourer hulls, while the aliens' massive weapons tried to swat the small, fast ships attacking them. Then Lieutenant Martinez made a discovery that changed everything. "Commander, look at this." He highlighted a section of the enemy ship on his tactical display. "Their armor is designed to absorb energy attacks, but it's actually weak against kinetic weapons. Our railgun slugs are going right through it." Sarah stared at the data. The Devourer's armor was incredibly advanced, but it had been designed to fight enemies who used energy weapons. Against humanity's primitive kinetic weapons, it was almost useless. All ships concentrate fire on the hull sections between weapon batteries. Ignore the weapons. Go for their engines and life support. The human attack pattern shifted. Instead of trying to destroy the massive Devourer weapons, they targeted the ship's vital systems. Railgun slugs punched through armor that had protected the aliens for millennia. The first Devourer ship began listing as its engines failed. The second started venting atmosphere from multiple hull breaches. The third tried to retreat, but human missiles were already locked onto its drive systems. When Captain Vasquez arrived with the main fleet, she found a battle already won. 3 Devourer ships that had terrorized civilizations for thousands of years floated dead in space. Destroyed by 12 human destroyers in less than an hour, the surviving Valari defenders could barely comprehend what they had witnessed. Their most powerful weapons had been useless against the Devourers, but these strange human ships with their crude kinetic weapons had torn the enemy apart. Human Commander Park, the Valari fleet leader, transmitted, his voice filled with wonder. "We have never seen anything like this. How did you defeat them so easily?" Sarah looked at the tactical display showing the destroyed Devourer ships. "We fight differently than you do. We don't try to overpower our enemies. We find their weaknesses and exploit them." Admiral Rodriguez's voice came over the fleet communication system as the main human force took defensive positions around the Valari homeworld. "All ships, prepare for immediate repairs and resupply. The Devourers will respond to this defeat. We need to be ready for whatever comes next." But for the first time in over a year, the Valari people could look up at their sky without seeing the shadow of death hanging over them. The Deathworlder fleet had arrived, and the galaxy's ancient nightmare had just learned what it meant to face the children of Earth. The news of the Devourer defeat spread across the galaxy faster than light itself could travel. For the first time in recorded history, the ancient enemy had been not just defeated, but completely destroyed. Alien civilizations that had cowered in fear for millennia dared to hope. But hope came with a terrible price. Admiral Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, studying the long-range sensor data with growing concern. The display showed what every intelligence analyst had feared. The largest Devourer fleet ever assembled was moving toward human-controlled space. 50 ships, sir, Captain Torres reported. Each one bigger than the 3 we destroyed at the Valari homeworld. The Admiral's tactical officer, Commander Blake, pulled up comparative data. Based on the energy signatures, some of these vessels are the size of small asteroids. We're looking at weapons that could crack moons. Rodriguez had expected this response. The Devourers had ruled the galaxy through fear and overwhelming force for millions of years. They would not allow their first major defeat to go unanswered. How long until they reach our position? 6 days at their current speed. 6 days to prepare for a battle that would determine the fate of not just humanity, but every free species in the galaxy. Rodriguez activated the fleet-wide communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Rodriguez. We have confirmation of incoming Devourer reinforcements. 50 capital ships estimated arrival in 6 days. All vessels will prepare for the largest space battle in human history. Throughout the human fleet, sailors and Marines received the news with grim determination. They had volunteered for this mission knowing they might not return home. Now that possibility had become a near certainty, but the humans were not alone anymore. Captain Elena Vasquez watched from the bridge of the Righteous Fury as alien ships began arriving in the system. The elegant Valari vessels were joined by the geometric craft of the Zephyrian Republic and the organic-looking ships of the Aquatic Alliance. Admiral, she reported, we're receiving requests for tactical coordination from 17 different species. They want to fight alongside us, Rodriguez smiled grimly. Tell them they're welcome to join us, but they fight under human command. We can't afford confusion in the coming battle. The next few days transformed the Valari system into the largest military staging area the galaxy had ever seen. Human engineers worked around the clock to retrofit alien ships with kinetic weapons and improved armor. Marine instructors taught alien soldiers the aggressive boarding tactics that had made human forces legendary. Most importantly, human commanders shared something that no alien species possessed: the knowledge of how to defeat the Devourers. Captain James Park found himself commanding a mixed squadron of human destroyers and Valari light cruisers. His alien counterparts listened carefully as he explained human combat doctrine. Forget everything you know about space combat, he told the assembled alien officers. The Devourers expect you to fight like civilized beings. They expect you to maintain safe distances, use precise targeting, and retreat when faced with superior firepower. The Valari squadron leader, a crystalline being named Threndal, tilted his head in confusion. But those are logical combat procedures. Logic won't save you from the Devourers, Captain Park replied. Aggression will. Speed will. The willingness to take risks that your enemy thinks are impossible will. He activated a holographic display, showing attack patterns. Human ships don't retreat when outnumbered. We close to point-blank range and pour everything we have into the enemy. We use nuclear weapons at distances that would damage our own ships. We ram enemy vessels if we have to. The alien officers looked shocked at these tactics. Their civilizations had spent millennia developing precise, careful methods of warfare. The human approach seemed almost primitive, but they had seen the results at the Valari homeworld. While the fleet prepared for battle, intelligence teams analyzed captured Devourer technology. Dr. Sarah Chen, now serving as the fleet's xenobiology expert, made discoveries that both encouraged and terrified her. Admiral, we've completed our analysis of the Devourer ship fragments, she reported via secured communication. The good news is that our assessment was correct. Their armor is designed specifically to counter energy weapons. Kinetic weapons go through it like paper. And the bad news? These beings aren't just conquerors, sir. They're cybernetic entities that have been consuming other civilizations for millions of years. Each ship contains the absorbed knowledge and technology of thousands of species. Rodriguez studied the technical data. Are you saying they adapt to new threats? Exactly. The fleet coming toward us will have analyzed our tactics from the first battle. They'll be prepared for our kinetic weapons and nuclear missiles. This changed everything. The humans had won their first engagement because the Devourers were unprepared for Earth's military technology. But their enemy learned from every defeat. Dr. Chen, how quickly can they adapt? Based on the data fragments, I'd estimate they need at least one full engagement to analyze and counter new tactics. But Admiral, there's something else. The Devourer ships we destroyed were scouts. The fleet approaching us represents their main military force. Rodriguez felt the weight of the galaxy's fate settling on his shoulders. Humanity had stumbled into a war against an enemy that had been perfecting their military technology since before Earth's sun was born, but humans had advantages too. The Admiral called a meeting of his senior commanders. Around the holographic conference table, the faces of humanity's best military minds appeared from ships throughout the fleet. Ladies and gentlemen, we're facing an enemy that adapts to new threats. That means our kinetic weapons will be less effective in the coming battle. We need new tactics. Captain Vasquez leaned forward. Sir, what if adaptation is also a weakness? If they need to analyze our methods to counter them, then we need to show them something completely unexpected. Commander Park nodded. Constant change. Never let them predict what we'll do next. Exactly, the Admiral agreed. We're going to fight this battle like humans have always fought. We're going to improvise, adapt, and use everything at our disposal. The planning session lasted 12 hours. By the end, they had developed the most unconventional battle plan in military history. It threw out every rule of space warfare and replaced them with the chaotic creativity that had carried humanity through countless conflicts. 3 days before the Devourer fleet arrived, Admiral Rodriguez received an unexpected message. It came from Earth, transmitted by the fastest courier ship in the human fleet. Admiral Rodriguez, President Chen's voice carried across the light years. The entire population of Earth is watching your progress. You carry with you not just our hopes, but our determination. The enemy thinks they can terrorize the galaxy into submission, show them what happens when they threaten human friends. But the most important message came from an unexpected source. Dr. Sarah, Chen's monitoring stations had detected transmissions from dozens of alien civilizations across the galaxy. Species that had hidden from the Devourers for centuries were sending words of encouragement. Admiral, she reported, we're receiving support messages from over 100 different species. They're calling us the Star Warriors and the Guardians of Light. Sir, the entire galaxy is counting on us. Rodriguez felt the magnitude of the responsibility. Humanity had been alone in the universe just months ago. Now they were the champions of every free species in the galaxy. On the day the Devourer fleet arrived, the human and alien forces were as ready as they could be. 800 human ships and 1,200 alien vessels retrofitted, with human weapons faced an enemy that had never known defeat. The Devourer fleet emerged from faster than light, travel like a moving nightmare, ships the size of cities arranged in perfect geometric formations, weapons that glowed with the power to destroy worlds. The accumulated might of an empire that had consumed half the galaxy. Admiral Rodriguez studied the enemy formation from his command chair. The Devourers had learned from the first battle. Their ships maintained greater distances from each other. Their weapons tracked faster. Their armor showed modifications designed to counter kinetic attacks, but they had made one critical mistake. They still thought they were fighting a conventional enemy. All ships, this is Admiral Rodriguez. Today we fight not just for humanity, but for every species that dreams of freedom. Today we show the galaxy that even ancient evils can be defeated by those brave enough to stand against them. The human fleet began moving toward the enemy, followed by hundreds of alien vessels carrying weapons and tactics they had never used before. The greatest battle in galactic history was about to begin. Remember, the Admiral's voice carried across the comm system, we don't fight like them. We fight like humans. The final battle began 6 months after humanity's first contact with alien life. Admiral Rodriguez watched from the bridge of the UES Defiant as his fleet faced the largest military force the galaxy had ever assembled. The Devourer home system was a monument to conquest. A massive artificial construct surrounded a dying red giant star, feeding on its energy to power a civilization built on the bones of 1,000 destroyed worlds. Space stations the size of moons orbited the central structure, each one bristling with weapons that had ended entire species. Sir, Commander Blake reported, long-range sensors show the enemy has 2,000 ships defending the system, and that's just what we can detect. Admiral Rodriguez studied the tactical display. The human fleet numbered 800 vessels, supported by 1,200 alien ships retrofitted with human weapons and tactics. Against any normal enemy, it would have been overwhelming force. Against the Devourers, it seemed almost inadequate, but numbers had never been. Humanity's greatest advantage, fleet. Status report, the Admiral ordered. Captain Vasquez's voice came over the communication system from the righteous fury. All human vessels report ready for combat. Alien squadrons are in position and awaiting orders. The Allied fleet that had assembled for this final assault represented dozens of species that had never worked together before. Elegant Valari cruisers flew alongside the geometric vessels of the Zephyrian Republic. Aquatic Alliance bioships moved in formation with the crystalline craft of the Silicon Collective. Each alien vessel now carried human weapons and human tactical officers. More importantly, each alien crew had been trained in the aggressive combat doctrine that had made humanity famous across the galaxy. Dr. Chen, Admiral Rodriguez called to the science station. What can you tell us about that central construct? Dr. Sarah Chen, now serving as the fleet's chief intelligence officer, highlighted sections of the massive structure on the main display. It's been under construction for over 50,000 years, Admiral. The Devourers use it to process the resources they steal from conquered worlds. But more importantly, it's their command center. Every Devourer ship in the galaxy receives orders from that facility. So if we destroy it, we cut off their ability to coordinate attacks. The remaining Devourer forces would be scattered across the galaxy without central command. Rodriguez nodded. The plan was simple in concept. Fight through 2,000 enemy ships to reach the central construct, then destroy a facility that had been fortified for 50 millennia. It was the kind of impossible mission that humans specialized in. All ships, this is Admiral Rodriguez. Today we end the threat that has terrorized the galaxy for millions of years. Today we prove that no enemy is too powerful when free beings stand together. The human fleet began its advance toward the Devourer positions. Unlike previous battles where the enemy had been surprised by human tactics, this time both sides were prepared. The first Devourer weapons opened fire at maximum range. Beams of energy that could crack planets reached across space toward the advancing human fleet, but Admiral Rodriguez had learned from every previous engagement. Execute Pattern Omega, he ordered. The human fleet scattered in all directions like an explosion of steel and fire. Instead of advancing in neat formations, they spread across a volume of space larger than most solar systems. The Devourer weapons, designed to destroy concentrated enemy forces, found only empty space where their targets had been moments before. Captain James Park led the first attack wave in his destroyer Thunderstrike. Around him, 50 human ships dove toward the enemy positions at maximum acceleration. Behind them, alien squadrons followed attack patterns they had learned from human instructors. All weapons, focus fire on the nearest Devourer vessel, Park ordered. Remember, we don't try to fight fair. We try to win. The Thunderstrike and her escorts closed to point-blank range with a Devourer battleship the size of a city. Human railguns and nuclear missiles struck the enemy hull simultaneously. The alien armor, which had been modified to resist kinetic weapons, held for several seconds before cracking under the concentrated assault. But the Devourers had learned too. Point defense systems that had been too slow to track human ships in previous battles now moved with mechanical precision. Captain Park watched as 2 of his destroyers were caught by enemy fire and destroyed. "This is Thunderstrike to all ships," he transmitted. "They've adapted to our speed, switching to evasion pattern Delta." The human ships began flying in seemingly random patterns that made no tactical sense to conventional military doctrine. But the chaos was planned. Each ship followed computer-generated flight paths that were impossible to predict, making it almost impossible for enemy weapons to track them. Meanwhile, Captain Vasquez led the main assault force toward the central construct. Her heavy cruisers and battleships carved through Devourer defensive lines with the concentrated fury of humanity's most advanced weapons. "Righteous fury to all capital ships," she transmitted. "Target the construct's shield generators. We need to bring down their defenses before the boarding teams can launch." The battle raged across the entire star system. Human ships fought with the desperate courage of soldiers defending their homes. Alien crews trained in human tactics pressed attacks that their own military commanders would have considered insane. But the Devourers were fighting for their very existence. Every ship they had, every weapon they possessed was committed to this final battle. Admiral Rodriguez watched the tactical display as hundreds of ships clashed in the largest space battle in galactic history. The casualties were mounting on both sides, but slowly, gradually, the human force was winning. "Admiral," Dr. Chen reported from her station, "I'm detecting massive energy buildups throughout the construct. They're preparing to use some kind of superweapon." The main display showed the central construct beginning to glow with power that dwarfed anything they had seen before. Weapon ports the size of space stations began opening along its surface. "Time to firing?" Rodriguez asked. 12 minutes, sir." The Admiral activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All ships emergency acceleration toward the construct. We have 12 minutes to stop them from firing a weapon that could sterilize this entire system." The human fleet abandoned all defensive tactics and raced directly toward the massive alien facility. They flew through fields of defensive fire that destroyed dozens of ships. But the survivors pressed on. Commander Sarah Park, now leading a squadron of fast attack craft, found herself racing through the construct's superstructure itself. The facility was so large that her ships could fly between its massive support beams like insects navigating a metal forest. All boarding teams, this is Park, were inside their defensive perimeter, beginning assault on the control centers. Human Marines trained for combat in zero-gravity and hostile environments launched themselves from their ships toward key points on the construct. They fought through corridors designed for beings 3 times their size, using weapons that would have been considered primitive by galactic standards, but were devastatingly effective against Devourer cybernetic systems. Sergeant Maria Santos led her Marine unit through a corridor filled with alien computer systems. Her squad's electromagnetic pulse grenades shut down Devourer defenses, while her soldiers used simple kinetic weapons to destroy equipment that had controlled galactic genocide for millennia. "Control center secured," she reported, beginning demolition of primary systems. Throughout the construct, similar scenes played out as human boarding parties destroyed the infrastructure of the galaxy's greatest evil. The Devourers had built their facility to resist energy weapons and cyber attacks. They had never considered the possibility of soldiers simply smashing their equipment with explosive charges and metal. Bullets. Admiral Rodriguez watched as the construct's weapon systems shut down one by one. But victory came at a terrible price. Half the human fleet was gone, destroyed in the desperate assault. "Admiral," Captain Vasquez reported from the Righteous Fury, "we've lost contact with most of the boarding teams inside the construct. The facility is beginning to collapse." Rodriguez made the hardest decision of his career. "All ships retreat to safe distance. We're going to finish this." The remaining human ships pulled back as the Admiral prepared to use humanity's most powerful weapon. The UES Defiant carried a single gravitational torpedo designed to collapse small stars. It had never been used in combat, because the destruction it caused was considered too extreme even for human warfare. But the Devourer construct represented millions of years of galactic oppression. It deserved an appropriate end. "Fire," Admiral Rodriguez ordered quietly. The gravitational torpedo struck the construct's central core and began its work. Space-time itself warped around the alien facility as artificial gravity fields collapsed its massive structure. The explosion that followed was visible from neighboring star systems. When the light faded, the Devourer construct was gone. In its place, a new nebula of superheated gas and metal began spreading through the system, carrying with it the raw materials for new worlds and new civilizations. The surviving Devourer ships, cut off from their command structure, began to retreat. Some surrendered. Others self-destructed rather than face capture. The galaxy's ancient nightmare was finally over.